Hi berries, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel if I've landed here for the very first time. Today's reaction is going to be a little bit on a serious topic. It says, why is Jakarta sinking? I was scrolling through my feed and I came across this video and have absolute no idea of why it's happening, the science behind it, history, what we can do in future. I had absolute no idea about anything. So I saved this video to watch later to just understand the situation, and in any case if I can give you guys a good help, and just be considerate as much as possible. So we're gonna be reacting to this video and learn something new and educate ourselves as to why is it happening and if it's real, because it's a very recent video. And I also heard there were floods in Indonesia very recently. I hope you guys are really staying safe. I really hope everyone's safe with all these things happening around. It feels like the end of the world is really near. Like, it feels unreal at some point. Anyway, let's just go and watch this thing, okay? I hope you are subscribed to my channel. Click the notification bell so you don't miss out any further updates. Also follow me on my Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. All the links in the description box. And now let's go and learn, why is Jakarta sinking? Okay, why? Play.
This is Waladuna Mosque in Jakarta.
Okay.
Its roof is in ruins. Moss covers the walls, and seawater flows through every corner of it. The last time people prayed here was in 2001, back when it was above ground. Today, it's a warning sign. It signals what could happen to Indonesia's capital city if things don't change soon. Because even though Jakarta faces the same rising sea levels as other coastal cities around the world, that's not quite what we're looking at here. Jakarta is sinking, and it's been sinking for decades. These blue areas show just how much the city has sunk since the 1970s. The darker the area gets, the more it's dropped. Here's how much it's descended
2017?
today. Most of the sinking happens here, in the north coast, where Jakarta meets the Java Sea. Here, the land is sinking by about 25 centimeters a year, destabilizing the area, damaging homes, and upending people's lives over and over again.
Buminya turun terus, jadi kita bangun lagi atau begini mah ya.
I know.
Mau pindah kemana lagi namanya udah.
Many residents here are fishermen who need to live by the coast to make a living.
Oh no.
But further inland, Jakarta's more than 10 million residents are also at risk.
10 million.
A huge portion of the city and the homes of millions could be underwater by 2050. Jakarta sits on a swampy plain on low coastal land. It has 13 rivers that drain through it.
30 years.
But the reason the city's sinking is actually that most people here don't have enough water.
Huh?
Most Jakartans lack access to clean, piped water. Instead, they get their water by digging wells like this one. The pumps go deep into the ground to extract the water stored in aquifers, underground layers of rock that hold groundwater. The porous spaces of the rock are filled with it. Multiply this by a few million, and you have a problem. Think of the rock as a soaked sponge. The more water is extracted, the more it deflates, causing the soil to compact and collapse, and the ground above it to sink. Pumps alone shouldn't be able to do this.
Of course.
While some layers of earth will never recover their water, aquifers are usually refilled naturally when it rains. But in Jakarta, that's becoming increasingly rare. For decades, Jakarta has been developing at a fast pace and is now covered in concrete. So the rainfall that would usually fill up the aquifers isn't being absorbed.
Because of the construction. Oh no.
It's gotten so bad that in coastal areas prone to flooding, like the fishing community Muara Baru, people have built makeshift bridges to move through their neighborhoods. Combined with sea level rise, it's also made floods during high tide and rainy seasons much more dangerous. Like in 2007, when Jakarta experienced one of the worst floods in its modern history.
2007.
A storm and high tide caused rivers and canals around the city to overflow, killing 80 people.
Tapi sekarang Bapak udah saking hawa ketakutan,
Gets him once experienced that.
Maxime has already lost his home
You
to
get
the
anxious?
sinking and now sleeps on his fishing boat. And Nondo has had to rebuild his home several times.
10 tahun yang lalu, 10 tahun ya kan. Ini sebetulnya tadinya air nggak sampai sini ya kan. Jadi kita bangunin ini ngukur. Oh iya, ini sampai sini air. Kita harus atasnya lagi.
Groundwater pumping is putting Jakarta's survival at risk.
Why can't we stop
But
it?
to understand how it got into this situation to begin with, you have to go back centuries. In the 1600s, when European powers were colonizing the world, the Dutch took over what was then the port town of Jakarta. They razed it to the
Jakarta.
ground and, in its place, built Batavia, a headquarters for their growing empire. They began to rule over the Indonesian, Chinese, Indian, and Arab people who had lived there for centuries, and built their new city in the Dutch style, with narrow townhouses along a grid of canals. The canals were used for trade, defense, and to make Batavia feel like a Dutch city.
Okay.
But look at Batavia from above, and you can see the city grid served a darker purpose too.
Pola grid ini memang bertujuan untuk sebagai elemen segregasi atau elemen pemisahan ya, atau pembagian dari fungsi-fungsi yang memang telah disediakan. Kanal atau disebut dengan Good River ini membagi kota Batavia menjadi dua bagian, yaitu bagian barat dan bagian timur.
If you look closely, you'll notice that there aren't many bridges between the two sides or between the blocks. This was by design. The Dutch were outnumbered, so in order to control the local population, they divided it. It looked like
Divide
this.
and rule.
Pretty much every group
That's
was
what they
confined to their city quarter. The Dutch ruled over the local population like this for over a century, but that began to change in the mid-1700s.
Okay.
Because the Dutch didn't properly maintain the canals, they began to deteriorate, and sediment from earthquakes blocked the flow of water. The water in the canals turned stagnant and soon deadly.
Kanal-kanal itu rusak, kemudian Batavia menjadi endemik dari penyakit, berbagai macam penyakit dari mulai tifus sampai dengan
And this Europeans think they did
malaria.
something good for us.
As disease spread through the canals, the wealthier Dutch moved south of Batavia,
Wow.
where they
How
began to
convenient.
develop a new colonial administrative center.
How convenient.
But despite the death and disease, the Dutch continued to leave the canals untreated. Instead, they began to use piped water. In the 1870s, they developed the first centralized water supply, with iron pipes to distribute water to homes. The pipes provided clean drinking water and indoor bathrooms. But the pipes were concentrated in these areas where the Dutch had moved to. The indigenous population was left in informal settlements called kampongs, far from the piped water. And this created a new kind of division in the city.
Segregasi itu terjadi dalam hal akses ruang kebersihan terhadap akses fasilitas sanitasi.
Native residents had to rely on street vendors for water.
I'm angry.
But most often, they were forced to get their water from the neglected canals. It took decades before pipes were finally built in these communities, and when they were, it would only be a few public standpipes.
Dan akhirnya sepertinya itu menjadi sebuah pembentukan mental yang seolah-olah masyarakat pribumi itu tidak mengerti sanitasi dengan peradaban yang rendah.
It's not that they were not civilized. You made them in a situation that they cannot live in a civilized manner.
This continued through 1949. After an armed conflict, the Dutch finally recognized Indonesia's independence and left. The legacy they left behind was a sprawling city, built on marshland and segregated by water access that now Jakartans had to deal with. Over the next decades, Jakarta's population skyrocketed.
Oh my,
More people required more housing, more stores, and more streets.
Of course.
And the city expanded fast. But its water infrastructure still doesn't serve the majority of the city. This chart shows how much of Jakarta's population has piped water.
I hope
it was 12% in the 50s and is still under 50% today. Many of the people without access to piped water have no other choice but to keep pumping groundwater to survive. And the city continues to sink. The situation has gotten so bad, the Indonesian government has talked about moving the capital from Jakarta to the neighboring island of Borneo. But that won't help the millions of people living in Jakarta. To save the city, in 2014, the government announced a project in collaboration with a Dutch architecture firm to build and reinforce 120 kilometers of seawalls to stop the water from flooding the land as it sinks. But so far, only these 10 kilometers have been reinforced, like this one in Muara Baru. The problem is that just like the rest of Jakarta, the seawall is sinking.
Itu deh. Tuh contoh lihat tuh. Itu tanggul lama tuh.
4 times.
Itu 4 kali naik. Ya, naik tambah semeter.
The project also includes an ambitious $40 billion plan to build a 38-kilometer wall shaped like a massive bird to protect the coast from flooding. But this project could take up to 30 years to complete, and by then, Jakarta could have lost most of its coastal land.
Kalaupun ada berbagai upaya yang dilakukan oleh pemerintah, itunya belum signifikan ya menyelesaikan masalah seutuhnya begitu.
Jakarta will continue to sink until groundwater stops being pumped, and groundwater will continue to be pumped until the government provides an alternative.
Of course.
This has been done before. In the 1950s, Tokyo managed to stop severe sinking by providing piped water. Taipei, Shanghai, Bangkok are other cities in the region that have managed to stop their cities from sinking. But time is running out.
Takutnya kapan tuh kapan anak cucu kita harapannya tipis, takut buminya turun, air keluap. Karena bumi ini setiap tahun pasti turun.
Jakarta has been free of Dutch rule for a little over 70 years now, but the way the Dutch built their city, carved it up, and restricted its water plagues it to this day. Jakarta is sinking into the sea, and until its government figures out how to provide clean, piped water for its citizens, that will continue to be its reality for as long as it's still here.
Oh, thank you for this video. Never knew that this existed. Mosquito. I mean, of course, I'm pretty sure the government will be trying their best to give healthy and clean water, but it wouldn't happen just like this because it took centuries to create this bad effect. It will take even more to have the good effect. It always is like that, so we need to have patience, but time is running, as I said. I just hope everyone who's watching me and who am I reaching to is safe. I'm sorry, this is really distracting. Where? Okay. And I really hope you guys are safe. And yeah, I would love to learn what's the situation in 2021. This is a video in 2021, but it gives an account up till 2017 and not after that. So how is it working right now? I would love to learn and love to know about it. If you can give me some information in the comment section, I would love to learn. Hope you guys are safe, and aku cinta. Bye guys, love you.